Ba-ba-bum, we are live. Welcome to Monday Night Live. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a great start to the week. Why don't you say hello in the chat and let me know what city you're tuning in from today for this episode of Monday Night Live. And hit the share button, share the content. Don't be selfish, share the content with your friends. We've got a special guest this evening, but before I introduce him, I do want to mention that the boot camp that I did the webinar on a week and a half ago is scheduled to start on Friday. So we're just finalizing applications for that. So it's turned out to be quite a lot of content. But if you're looking to get involved in that, hit me up tonight or tomorrow to get involved in that. The next one will be in November. So I'm always fascinated by startups that are doing something innovative. And I came across a website called SpacetoCo that is like similar to an Airbnb, but for renting space for hire. And they've had some really cool venues on there. And I found out that in 2018, they pitched their business idea on Shark Tank and managed to secure 200 and something thousand Australian dollars for a 20% stake in their company from one of the sharks, which is always very impressive. And so I reached out. It turns out the founders are in Perth, and Franco agreed to be on Monday Night Live. And I've asked him to get a glass of red wine ready to join me while I have a beer as well. But ladies and gentlemen, please give a Monday Night Live welcome to the one and only Franco.
Hello.
How are you, Franco?
Yeah, good, thanks. I thought I'd introduce the wine first.
Yeah. Mate, how's this weather we're having in Perth? It's a bit all over the place at the moment, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's turning out to be a nice week ahead, though. Looking forward to a bit of sunshine. My grapevines outside my office window are starting to sprout. So cool. Good times all around, yeah.
Awesome. Is there anyone else watching that's from Perth? Let me know where you're tuning in from. I've got John from Sydney, Maurizio again, one of my regulars, and Mr. Frace 3 might be one of your
one of my developers.
Franco.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I dare say Mum and Dad are on as well. They shared the Facebook post earlier. So hi, Mum and Dad.
Okay. Well, Mum and Dad, say hello in the chat.
Yeah.
Franco, you've got an interesting headline on your LinkedIn profile, haven't you?
I do. Remind me. It's something about dreadlocks, isn't it?
Yeah. How's it worded exactly?
The guy that used to have dreadlocks.
The guy that used to have the entrepreneur that used to have dreadies. What happened to the dreadies, mate?
Combination of not enough time. Contrary to popular belief, they actually take a lot of time to maintain. So I was spending quite a significant chunk of my time, maintaining the dreads, and so it was just time to go. Plus, the wife wasn't that interested in them. So
yeah, understandable, mate. Well, how's the business going lately? You obviously did some capital raising in 2018. You did accept that offer from the investor. Is it Steve Baxter? Was it?
We did, yeah. So we accepted it on the show. As it sort of progressed, sort of beyond the show, we didn't actually end up going through with the offer, but we did secure some funding from Better Labs, the local Perth-based venture capital firm backed by RAC at the end of last year, I think it was, end of 2019. Right. So we secured some funding from them. And yeah, look, business is going really, really well. Obviously, we're in the business of people meeting with people. So COVID really isn't our friend, but thankfully, our key markets being Western Australia, South Australia, and New Zealand are our key customers, current customers, are all doing pretty well with COVID. So we sort of rebounded reasonably well.
Well, I guess people are, looking for alternatives that, they can access. And, for myself, like we work where I normally do events, haven't been running events to date. And I went on the site, mate, there's some really good venues on there. So, some really reasonable spaces they can fit, a couple hundred people. I was quite impressed. Definitely better than the other sites that are out there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's a real variety, particularly some of the local businesses that like local cafes and just sort of the small businesses where they don't do space hire as their main gig, and so the prices are somewhat affordable. And also we've got a lot of city council spaces as well, and so they're just naturally very affordable, even for commercial hire. You can get in and out, for a small event for a couple of $100, as long as you organise most of the stuff yourself. Works out pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. And so I read that you and your two partners, all previously school teachers, I believe, came up with the idea for the business over a beer or in the pub. Tell us about how you commercialized that idea and, decided to commit to, building this business. Yeah,
so the original idea, I guess you could say, was probably more based around the residential concept. And we sort of quickly transitioned into commercial, like focusing on commercial venues. And it would have been about I think even just before we launched, we actually discovered the council market as well. So there's sort of the three different pathways to take. And, growing a marketplace is a difficult thing because you've got two sets of customers to go after. You've got to build your stock and then you've got to go sort of find those customers to book. And so we quickly started focusing on commercial, and then soon after that started focusing heavily on city councils, and that's pretty much our primary focus currently. And that's really been, our pathway for succeeding as a business. Really is focusing on the council market. It is absolutely critical for us as a growing business, but also we're solving a real problem as well, because I don't know about you, but if you've ever booked a council facility before, it is quite tedious. It's lots of forms and phone calls and stuff, and we just sort of simplify that whole process. So
okay, so that's not something you anticipated. It's just something you stumbled across along the way. You stumbled across that opportunity, or
I've got this slide where we back in the day where we sat down and we sort of brainstormed like all the spaces that you could possibly hire out. And we had council halls and we had that sort of concept back then, but I just don't know if we anticipated the size of the problem and the size of the opportunity. So it's a little bit of a harder market to kind of crack into and work with, because they move a little bit more slowly. There's a lot more sort of red tape involved, but the problem that you're solving is big enough that there's definitely a huge need.
Yeah, I remember when I was living in Melbourne in Docklands, there was a really lovely space there for seminars and stuff. And they had like a music recording studio. It was a great space, but it was just very difficult to find, on their site. And then you had to fill in all these forms. You're absolutely right. And then you even had to do like an induction before you could, use the space. But then after that, it was literally like $50 to, to rent a space. So I kind of totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you sort of summarize the problem, and it's not that difficult to sort of convert into an automated process. And if you make it easier for people to book, naturally more people will book it. You're utilizing that facility that is paid for by taxes and run by the money that we all pay to councils and rates and all those sorts of things. So and we're sort of also encouraging use of facilities that we have rather than I guess, building more or driving further. There are so many facilities that are local to everyone in their local council, and every council has some sort of facility that you can hire out. So exposing that to more people, taking the availability online, making it easier. Naturally, we're seeing an increase in utilisation across those facilities, which is fantastic.
Is this the first entrepreneurial venture you've been involved in?
It is, yeah. I guess you could say it is. My last job was entrepreneurial in nature. I didn't own the business, but I worked in an entrepreneurial way. It was a business development management. So I sort of always, the transition from that to this felt quite natural as far as finding new business and being independent and working from home and just that sort of stuff. So, but this is truly the first, business that I've run. So,
And so far, so what is it? It's been, 2-3 years now, is it, since you started? Or
end of 2015. The idea was born. It was New Year's Eve, and then business formed.
New Year's Eve, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Jeremy came up with the original concept and shared it with me. New Year's Eve 2015. Yeah, and
awesome.
And so the business launched in 2017, March 2017.
Okay, and so since then, what's been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome so far? I know there's plenty of them, aren't there? But I'm curious. What aspect of the journey has been the biggest struggle so far?
I guess there's two answers to that. One would be the business side of the journey, and then the other would be the personal side. If I start on the business one, I'd say I saw we had this. I don't know if it was a triangle or a square, but we sort of had this dilemma around. We had customers that very much had a problem that needed solving, but we needed development in order to solve that problem. Quite a lot of development, but in order to pay for that development, we needed funding. But then, we couldn't get the customer without the development. Couldn't get the development without the funding, and it's sort of. There wasn't really a spot to sort of land in. And once we solved one, we were able to solve the development, to solve the product, and now we've got that product. And now it's sort of starting to actually sort of spin up and the product that we've developed and the problem that we've solved finally and really, really solved it and really nailed the problem is super exciting.
Yeah. And it never stops, does it? I mean, you've still got to be working on those areas. I can imagine it must have been a huge development project. Did you have experience in development or building websites or user experience or anything like that?
Building the website, yes, but really basic myself individually, and same with Jeremy and Dan. But I think maybe we didn't have it. Direct experience in user experience or understanding how to solve a two-sided marketplace problem, but the result is we've nailed it. So I think the experience that we've had in our previous jobs and being teachers, I think has all led into we've actually listened to our customers and then turned that into a valuable solution. Learned some lessons along the way, but now we really truly deliver good value constantly to customers. So I'm pretty stoked for that.
I've noticed, like, when you're talking about the business, you're constantly talking about the value to the customer. I love it how you keep saying there's a big problem that we're solving, and I think, like, coming from that mindset, or that's is going to stand you in good stead for creating a good customer experience. I think too many startups get so focused on what they're trying to achieve that sometimes they forget from the customer's perspective.
So my role is product manager, and it sort of sits at that intersection of kind of all stakeholders. It's about listening to the customers, listening to, customer support and sales and just general customer needs. Listening to the needs of the business and what we need to be able to do to sort of grow and be sustainable and viable. Listening to the needs of our investors and our developers and our founders. Like, it's all sort of coming into what are we going to get our developers to work on, and just making sure that when we build something, it's an MVP in nature, minimum viable product, that we get small things out fast. We deliver value constantly to our customers. We get feedback from them. We help them. We allow them to build the product with us, and the result is you actually are solving a problem. And because our customer base is similar in nature, depending on, particularly for our councils, you go from one council to another and they all kind of share 90% of the same problem. Once you solve it for one, if you really focus, like we use these customers by name and we say, we're solving this for this person at this council. If we solve it for them, we know that we just turn around to this council and we've, here you go, we've solved all your problems.
Yeah, and there's so many of them. Just quickly, I'm going to just remind the audience that while we're on the live, guys, we'll probably be here for about half an hour. If you've got any questions about startups, commercializing a business idea, or even capital raising, or pitching guys on Shark Tank, whatever your questions may be, drop them into the comments. We're going to address as many of them as we can. I want to hear a bit more from you guys. A bit quiet tonight. No, it's pretty miserable weather in Perth, but there's no excuse. Here we go. Customer first, yay, Daniel.
That's Dan, one of the other co-founders. Yeah.
All right, that's the Daniel. Okay, I'm with you. So, what's the best piece of advice do you think that you've had along the way since founding the business?
It's a broad question, that. Best piece of advice.
I mean, do you have any business mentors or guys you go to for guidance?
Probably related to my role currently. One of the things that I constantly think about actually comes from sort of our fourth co-founder in New Zealand, who's actually taken on the New Zealand arm of the business, Elle.
Epic.
And she helped me a lot with the product stuff sort of early on. And one of the bits of advice that she gave me personally around the product side was to deliver value constantly, to ensure that whatever you're building, you actually build and deliver faster to your customers on a continual basis, rather than sort of building it and holding onto it and perfecting it and then actually delivering it. So that little bit of advice, I think, has really shaped the way that we respond to our customers on an ongoing, like, sort of a continual basis, rather than trying to solve all their problems in one big hit. We just continue to just do small pushes, solve small problems at a time. And each time we do that, we learn a little bit more. And so rather than planning something that you're going to be doing in 1 month or 2 months' time, I actually never plan any of that. I just, like, it's just there, it just sits over there, and I know it's there, it's coming up, but I don't plan something until we're actually kind of doing it right in the moment. And it just helps to use all of that learning that you just constantly learning the best way to do
feedback.
So that'd probably be, personally for me, which impacts heavily on the business and the we're a .com business, right? So the product is pretty key to it. I think that's probably the biggest bit of advice that I've had, and that has come from someone internal.
Yeah, that's such good advice, because you imagine doing like all those 50 incremental changes all at once, and then launch it all, and there's some positive feedback, maybe there's some negative feedback, but you don't really know what's working and what's not by doing it like little incremental changes. And I also heard someone say recently that perfection is a form of procrastination. So,
there you go. Yeah,
I know with like social media content, people will try and get every bit of content absolutely perfect, and they miss out on the feedback. It's very similar. The live feedback from their audience. At the end of the day, the customers, I think the customers' needs is where everyone's focus should be. And so you're definitely doing that. We've got a question here from Michael. From a council point of view, does it vary much between WA and South Australia? Then how different in New Zealand? What aspect very much do you think?
So as far as the way that they process their bookings, the way that they handle their customers, it's pretty similar. I probably speak more to the WA and South Australia side. The council side, we're still early in New Zealand, but it's certainly the WA and South Australia. It's really quite similar actually. That they go sort of similar halls and outdoor spaces. And similar ways that they look at their fees and charges and the way that they handle customers. They have bookings offices. Very, very similar actually. So that's been quite lucky that we don't have to sort of change too much depending on the market. Yeah,
excellent. And how important is social media? I don't know if this is your area or not. How important is social media in your marketing strategy?
It isn't. Yeah, it isn't my area, but it's hard. It's probably hard for me to say. We've got a reasonable presence on Facebook, probably double that in Instagram. LinkedIn more recently has become fairly critical for us, particularly in the council market. Personally, I find LinkedIn quite beneficial. I do a lot of sort of update posts as to where we're at, and I do get feedback from some of our hopefully future customers that they're actually watching and seeing the progress that we make. So so that's LinkedIn's been huge for our current council market.
I know. So you've been getting people to rent the spaces through LinkedIn as well as the vendors.
We haven't actually done a lot of that. Yeah. Okay. To be honest, I've done a couple of posts.
They normally just find you, do they, through Google and so on?
Yeah. We've had some unmeasured success with Instagram in the past. We haven't sort of pinpointed exactly, but we have done a few posts in the last year or two where we've sort of seen sort of like a spike if you do a particular post on a particular space, but nothing truly sort of data driven yet.
Epic. I thought there might be some big opportunities on LinkedIn for national opportunities and stuff like that. Instagram would be great for influencers, I would imagine, but it's always a bit of a tricky space. You've got to be engrossed in it, haven't you? You do, it's just a lot of energy, and there's only so much company energy that you can spend on particular areas, right? So you've just right now it's councils, and that's the focus. And so LinkedIn, is naturally sort of part of that strategy. Epic. Yeah. So you're Australia, New Zealand, and then is the plan to world domination?
Antarctica, Mars, Moon, absolutely. Eventually.
Fantastic. And are there any other business ideas that in the works, or are you going to be throwing around any curly ones at New Year's Eve this year?
I think we're always throwing around ideas. I think one of the ones we came up with was people to co. That sort of idea that you hire a space, but then there are services and things that you need as part of hiring that space. Like a local marketplace of food vendors or flowers or whatever, chairs and hire equipment. So we've sort of explored that really lightly in the past. But, our focus right now is just growing what we currently have as a product, and just really being super focused on that, and just making sure that that's humming along. And, we haven't really, turning our attention fully to the guest side of the marketplace as well, and driving up those bookings. Naturally we're seeing, I think in one of the councils, we saw about a 5K return year on year after paying our fees. So they made more money. They actually made money by using us than they would have, from another software provider. And another council, they had a 29% increase year on year in bookings. And we're really not doing a whole bunch to the guest side of the marketplace. We're just making it easier for people to book. So there's a huge opportunity for the guest side of the marketplace to really, double, triple the occupancy in some of these facilities. So the possibilities are sort of endless.
Yeah, cool. Before we wrap up, tell me a little bit about your Shark Tank experience. What was that like? Applying for that and preparing for it. Did you find the process quite intimidating? Just share your 5 minutes on the Shark Tank story.
So the applying for and going through the audition wasn't too bad. We've done a few pitches and a few different things, and naturally, because we're all teachers, standing up in front of a few people and saying a few things, like, it's not that difficult. But and we can talk, right? We're all sort of natural in front of a crowd. However, people ask me a lot, like, what was it like, and the best way that I can describe it is I've been married. I'm married. And I have 2 kids. And Shark Tank was the 4th life experience. There's that feel, there's that, wedding day. Like, I don't think I could hardly eat much on my wedding day. And then, when your kids are born, I don't know, there's just that feeling that you've never had before. And Shark Tank was similar because, back, that was 2.5, almost 3 years ago that we filmed it. And the business has come, like, we've reinvented ourselves like 3 times over since that point. So back then, you only know what you know, and you're about to go on national TV with no control over what's going to be aired or how they're going to cut it together, and you're exposing this business that you've given up your day job for to the rest of the country and a global audience. So that it's big. It's really nerve-wracking. So it was a big day. We afterwards, my sister lives in Sydney, which is where it was filmed, and we went and visited her after, and she said we were sort of a bit of a mess. It was like our heads were just all over the place. Like, it was just crazy. It's just a crazy day.
Yeah,
crazy.
Awesome. What a great experience and a great opportunity to get some feedback. If you had to give somebody doing something similar, like pitching to a group of investors like that, what would be the number one tip you'd give them?
Be honest. Don't lie. Know your numbers. But above all, be honest, which we were. Some people, I'm sure would fake a few things for the sake of a national audience, but we just went in and we're just like, this is what we've got. No other way to do it, really.
Yeah, brilliant. They can't really trip you up if you're not hiding any of the information behind closed doors, I guess. You certainly had a good outcome, mate. Thanks for joining us on Monday Night Live.
No worries.
It's been a really, I hope the audience has found it as inspiring as I have. Like, it's been really good to hear about, like, making those incremental changes to the product, getting market feedback, putting the customer first, being okay with it not being perfect, and also the importance of authenticity, not just in capital raising, but when you're doing business. Some great takeaways there, mate. Enjoy the rest of your bottle of wine, and I'll enjoy the rest of my single fin here. Thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries.
And
been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, buddy. Okay, guys, that brings us to another conclusion of Monday Night Live. Hope you all have a huge, awesome week in business from wherever you're tuning in from. I am going to do another episode where I invite audience on to ask questions about social media, business, entrepreneurship. So if you'd like to be involved in that, either drop a comment here in the video or send me a private message on LinkedIn. We'll probably be arranging about 6 or 7 people to come on to next week or the week after, one of the two. I've got Dr. John D. Martini coming on Friday, which is a bit of an impromptu webinar. And then the following week, I've also got Jack Delosa from the Entourage coming on. So we've got a couple of things there to look forward to. Thanks everybody for contributing in the comments and joining us, and special thanks to Franco and his partners at SpacetoCo. Make sure you check out the website, some great venues on there across Australia and New Zealand. All right, guys, that's all from me. Have a good night. Peace.